we have a roll call for the historic board?
Roll call, historic board.
Ken Meyer.
Kathy Glasser?
Joan Cooper. Libby
Good.
Murray.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Okay, and I'm gonna ask you to hit pause for the planning commission to open.
Okay,
I call to order the planning commission. Roll call, please.
Libby Murray.
Ashworth.
Alan Clark.
We have a quorum.
We welcome Alan. It's his first meeting.
That's right.
do you want to go on with the?
Yep.
Please stand.
For all of silence and the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the historic board's agenda, the next item is election of officers. We currently have one person missing, or no, unoccupied position.
A vacant spot, yeah.
We have a quorum of 3. Whether or not.
You have a quorum of 4.
Oh, 4, I'm
There's
sorry.
4 present.
Libby, you're in the wrong place.
That's a way of telling me I'm sitting on the wrong side.
You need to split yourself.
She should have
But
sat
I
in the
think
middle.
with 4 people, we could go ahead and do elections.
I would say yes, you can go ahead and elect your board, because I don't think your vacancy is gonna be filled immediately. Yes.
No one wants to be.
So we need a motion from someone for our chairman? Anybody?
Make the motion.
Seconded.
Like the officer, the chairman, sorry, chairperson.
And who would you like in that job?
Just-
You gotta elect
Oh.
somebody.
Yeah, you nominate someone.
Okay.
Kathy,
Kathy, okay?
is there a second? That was from Joan. Are there any other nominations for chairman? Hearing none, I'm gonna close nominations. Can we vote on chairman as Kathy for
All in
another term?
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now you carry out the rest of
Nobody
the,
wants
Kathy,
this job.
for the other officers. So your vice chair?
I nominate Libby as vice chair, because she's doing a great job. Second.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, officers elected.
Never say no.
What?
That's the way to do it, don't even get her a chance to say no.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda format?
I so moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Now do we wait?
To approve their agenda.
No, that's it. No, planning commission's just here for the discussion of the zoning text amendment discussion. Okay, so do you want to go over your bylaws really quick?
Okay. But that's actually not listed.
Election laws.
Officers and bylaws. So again, we've provided as required, we've given you your bylaws. Is there anything we need to fix on the bylaws, or you wish to just adopt them en masse?
Request an update on the meeting time
Okay.
from 4 p.m. to
Articles.
5 p.m.
Article 6-1.
Okay.
That's it.
And that's it. We need to vote on that.
Yes, please.
I second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
So now we're down to the heart of it.
This, okay. Other than that, there are no questions? Can I make a motion that we approve the bylaws as written?
You already did that.
You already did.
Yeah, we are.
You already did that.
You did it.
Oh. Okay.
With the change as noted.
Yes.
I thought that was just for the time change.
No.
You're good.
All right.
So,
On to me. Okay. I know this is new for the historic board. We don't typically do work sessions in a joint capacity with another board, but we felt this was the appropriate format. It is much more loose in organization and recognition of membership and how we continue our conversations today. It's meant to be an open forum. We really want to have open dialogue. I did give you the history here, so I do want to go over that briefly, if everyone's okay with that. So in summer of 2024, an appeal was filed with the Board of Zoning Appeals regarding a decision that I issued on a property that had been doing work that I felt was in violation because they had not come to us with an application and they had not obtained zoning approval prior to conducting work on their property. This went to a hearing in October 8th of 2024, and the BZA actually upheld the appeal that was filed by the property owner and overturned my decision. Then I brought this matter to the town council to make them aware of this, and we did have our town attorney look at the entire file of the BZA appeals case, review it against our zoning ordinance to see if we had some errors in our own zoning ordinance and what we wanted and intended to be done from a staff perspective. That came out in November. I'm so sorry. And in trying to see where we want to go from here, and we discussed this with town council through the town manager based upon what the attorney had reviewed. And from that, we concluded that some amendment to the zoning ordinance should be proposed regarding the process and approvals required, and a more detailed listing of the types of renovation repair work that require no review be detailed out. What items would require review by the zoning administrator and what items would require review by the historic district review board. And again, said zoning text amendments and guideline revisions should be considered to rectify this issue and clearly state the town's intent of zoning review in the historic district. But again, we also felt it would be important and useful to improve the distinction between routine maintenance work on a property versus minor work versus major work, and the levels of review required by either the zoning administrator or the historic district review board. Ultimately issuing out into a certificate of appropriateness of the approved work being sought by the property owner. So our attorney did find that, yes, the ordinance is a little vague in some components of this and felt we should try and clarify what our intent from the town was. And council's direction is, we do want to improve this. We do want zoning review of certain processes, but maybe not all processes. And they wanted us to be really clear as to when somebody's coming forward to conduct work on their property, if it's minor work, major work, but we're now going to add a new classification, which you do not have currently under your guidelines at all, of routine maintenance, where we reference that terminology, but we don't really have defined it in any clear fashion, so that's what we're trying to do in this process. So with that said, staff worked on this for a period of time and trying to develop what that could look like as a document, because it was going to require a whole new appendix to come forward out of this. And so we worked on that first from November to June of 2025. We then brought this to the Planning Commission, who has seen this document in some iteration of this format today. When we asked you to review it at that July meeting to see if there were any errors or things that we should have included in our list of types of work that could be happening. From there, based upon your feedback at that meeting, we brought this forward to the town council at their August meeting and asked them to look at this to see, did we kind of address the issues that came out from our town attorney in his review of this appeal from almost a year prior? Did this resolve the issues that council felt were lacking in our ordinance to address the clarity issues? What was their opinion on all of this? From that meeting, they had received some input from members of the Civic League, the Historic District Civic League, who had taken the same document and started to work on it themselves within a subcommittee of the Civic League. And they provided some feedback at that meeting and felt that they could also, because they had not concluded their work by that point, were requesting council to allow them more time to finish their work on the document and get all their comments in. At that point, council agreed to actually send this matter over to the Civic League, to their subcommittee, and let them continue their work and bring it back when they finished their work on this. At that point, that came back to the town in November for the council to look at what the Civic League had recommended as changes to the staff product. And at that point, we had a work session of town council staff and the Civic League to sort of talk about this. And I do mean sort of because it really was just hearing from their take on it. There really wasn't a true work session. It was council at the dais and the Civic League sitting in the audience. Based upon that, we made some staff comments into that and felt we agreed with some components of what they'd said. Others we said, no, we'd rather not do it that way at all. If you don't want the staff review of this, let's take that out, period. We don't need to be halfway in, halfway out. So basically, it was agreed that the Civic League would take it back again, make the changes that came out of that work session with town council, and do some more cleanup issues, do a final review, and then bring it back to the staff, which came back to us around mid-December into our office as a final review product from them, and to start moving this forward. So that's where we are today. We brought this now back into our queue of work. It took us a little bit of time to get it into the agenda calendar, but here we are today. And we felt it was now appropriate to pull in the Historic District Review Board. Out of no disrespect that you weren't involved before. Now, I know you might feel a little feelings hurt along the process, but ultimately the Historic District Review Board is not a policy-making board. You're really an administrative action board.
And the Civic League is a policy-making board.
I didn't say that, but the town council has the right to refer things where they wish to refer things to for appropriate guidance, input, and that's what the town council chose to do. So with that said, we felt pulling you into a joint meeting with the Planning Commission to look at this, hopefully for one final time, before this goes back to the town council to see if we're now at a document that they agree is ready to go out as a zoning text amendment. So we're not even close to approving this yet. We're just trying to get to a final draft is where we are. And once this goes back to the council, and hopefully we have hit upon that sweet spot of a draft document, they will then pass a resolution of intent that kicks off the public hearing process to then formally send it to the Planning Commission for their public hearing and Town Council for their public hearing to eventually adopt, we hope, some zoning text amendment with guideline changes that would become adopted. And then eventually be the documents you guys work from here on forward. But we felt getting your input at this point was useful because you're gonna have to be the ones actually administering this, ultimately all of this. And do you agree with the changes that we're making as to what is routine maintenance versus what falls under minor work, which falls under my purview of review, versus what is major work, which falls under your purview of review. So I hope that gives you the background of everything up to this point. It's a mouthful. So within the documents, again, so everybody knows, we've given you a tracker change document for both the Historic District Overlay, and we're going to start with that document first. And then next is the proposed new Appendix G to the guidelines. In those documents, if they are in, let me talk about the overlay chapter first. If it's in red, if it's in black font, that's the original adopted ordinance that we have in place today. If we have made any changes in that overlay chapter, staff changes are shown in a red font and or red strike through. That's what we're proposing to change. Civic League edits to that document are shown in a green font and or a green strike through. In the Appendix G, because that's brand new, staff wrote that initially. So everything in black font, staff wrote. Any of the changes from the Civic League are shown as green font and or green strike throughs. At that time when we were putting this agenda packet together, Tracy was out on an extended leave with our office. And so I wasn't certain she was going to be present for tonight's meeting, so I had her put all of her thoughts and comments in a written document that we included in your packet. But she was able to come back from her leave, and we're glad to have her this evening. Today's her first full day back in the office, so we're giving her a long day. And I've also asked our building official, our code official, Jed Brady, to join us as well, since some of this document that came from the Civic League requested a whole column for him to show up on this document as well, and we want to talk to you about that in this process. So that's where we are, so I want to go ahead, if everybody's good with that, or any questions so far on where we are.
So the actual checklist that we have, is this the most current after the town council met and made suggestions? Or were the suggestions in here made after they?
After, our staff suggestions were made after we got the document, after it was given to us by the city. Is that what you're asking? So they had none of those changes. That's the first time people are seeing this tonight. We're gonna start with Article 8.
We're gonna start with Article 8, yes. Okay. So the first page of changes is shown on page 3 in its section. And the big change for all of you, and I really haven't made it a big issue, the zoning ordinance has finally been codified into the town code. And so you see a lot of chapter 8s that I referenced before. Chapter 8 has not gone away, it's just been codified under the town code. The whole zoning ordinance now sits in the town code as chapter 32, and within that is now Article 8, is what is the historic district overlay. All your section numbers have been updated to reflect the codified zoning ordinance. It didn't change any of the text, it just changed the numbering of every section all the way through. So with that said, the first change is on page 3, section 32.224. We are proposing to add in the zoning administrator will review all applications to determine the proper level of review in compliance with the Cape Charles zoning ordinance. This was at the heart of the appeal that we went through now almost 2 years ago, because I have to do zoning review, as you recall, of any application that's coming in that's looking to add a use, change a use, add a structure, change a structure, do anything of that nature. I do zoning review first, regardless of whether you're in the historic district overlay, you're in the harbor district, you're in the industrial district, or you're in the commercial district on the way out of town. I review for zoning compliance first. We clearly did not make that clear in your overlay district that is a component that gets waived in any way, shape, or form. So that is the sentence we're proposing to add in here that I think resolves that miscommunication or uncertainty from our last document. Any comments, changes?
So could it slow down the process?
I'm doing it already.
So,
That's fine.
it just wasn't in
I
there.
just wanted to
Wasn't
ask,
written
you're only
out.
one person.
That's it. So then on page 4, the next change we made in section 32.225, summary of administrative review procedures. We took out in general, and it is the purpose. Then we added in another sentence at the end here saying, therefore, the zoning administrator will review all applications to determine the proper level of review and compliance with the Cape Charles zoning ordinance. Again, we're just repeating what was on that prior paragraph.
Katie, I just have a question. That's a sorry. It says all applications, but that does not apply to what's in the chart as, what do you call it, routine maintenance?
Routine maintenance.
Minor work, that only applies for those.
That have to do an
those
application.
That have to do an application.
That's
Okay,
correct.
that's what I
That's
thought,
correct.
yes.
Yes. Then, starting on page 5, for big changes, we're proposing to strike your existing 32.226 and eventually 32.227. And we're proposing new sections go in their place. So we'll start with what is the proposed new section for 226, which now includes a description of proposed work. I'm not going to read that in detail to you, but we're now breaking out into 3 basic categories: routine maintenance, minor work, major work. So we have a somewhat definition of routine maintenance included here, and it clearly states routine maintenance will not require the issuance of a C of A by staff or the HDRB. And again, further, we struck a few things because there was a little bit of conversation, should we not? We just took it all the way up. It's routine, then you don't need to hear from us and give you the okay on it. And it is the property owner's responsibility to ensure the proposed work qualifies as routine maintenance. We've added, yes,
There's no oversight from zoning to determine, I don't understand why the property owner would determine whether it's routine maintenance or not. It sounds like, well, they build a new house, and it's called routine maintenance. And it's got like pots in that house, so.
building a new house is not routine maintenance.
No, but
But what I'm saying is, it's the property owner's responsibility to identify as routine maintenance.
That's correct.
there's no.
It doesn't mean that
zoning
somebody
input?
can't then make a call to my office and lodge a complaint or say, is this really, this work is going on, does it meet this? Then I would have to go investigate and either confirm that's routine maintenance or not, and deal with that next situation.
Katie, you just said that routine maintenance does have to submit an application.
No, it does not. No. Routine maintenance does not have to submit an application. I know it's hard to, and we can, I'm not gonna say you have to agree to the changes in this chapter, I just wanted to walk you through them, and then we can go through the guidelines and look at what is routine maintenance and really talk through those categories. Then maybe it'll start to make a little more sense as we're going through this process to say, I get why that would not require an application at all,
So
or an email to us at all.
they have to let you know.
No.
But, well, it says the property owner's responsibility to ensure the proposed work qualifies as routine maintenance. How do they do that?
We're hoping people will be truthful,
That's
do
it.
the right thing.
Looking at the guidelines and going through this chart, they can say, okay, this is what I'm trying to do. Oh, that's under routine maintenance. I don't need to get a permit from the town. I can go ahead and do this. That, we're giving them a document they'll be able to reference at any time and go look at it. And we're gonna try and partner with the Civic League and see if we can ensure we do a massive education campaign to ensure all the property owners in the historic district get informed of this new change coming, if this gets adopted. I'm not prepared to do that today, because it's still gotta go through public hearing to see if council will even adopt this as a zoning text ordinance. Zoning text amendment ordinance, excuse me.
Can I add, since I'm on that subcommittee from.
That's up to the two chairmen if they're gonna allow that.
I'd like to
Sorry,
make a comment.
it's not me.
And you are?
Paul Grossman. And I'm not council right now. I'm part of this 4-group person, but we added this to make sure people understood if they violated. We have a statement in here that says clearly it's your responsibility and you're gonna have to suffer the consequences. So it was our suggestion to change the will and to add the sentence.
But I saw later in the discussion, Katie, and we may want to wait, was the fact that you guys needed to know in case you got people calling and saying, hey, they're doing.
Sure. When staff first proposed this document, we did have provisions in here saying that we would somehow be notified in advance for the routine maintenance, so we could give it the go-ahead. But based upon the review work of the Civic League, where we started to straddle, no, maybe not an application process, maybe they just call or send us an email, but then we have to respond within so long. And after that conversation happened at the council meeting, we finally said, if it's routine maintenance, then just take the staff out of it in total. Let's make sure we got a clear list of what is routine maintenance, we all agree upon that list, and we let people go do it. You don't need to phone my office, you don't need to shoot me an email regarding it, you don't need to fill out a piece of paper to me, you don't have to fill out an application to me. If it's routine, it's routine. However, if we are in the course of doing our job, see something happening that is no longer routine, but is straight into minor work or major work, we're gonna stop what you're doing, talk to you, and figure out, now you gotta apply to get in compliance and get approvals issued because you strayed past routine maintenance, and we're gonna have to get to those approval letters for those next stages of work that you're now doing on your property. Okay?
Okay, so say
Yep.
I have a foundation problem, I'm gonna sister a beam onto another beam underneath the house, there's nothing on the exterior, I can just do that, but if they find a crack in the masonry and it has to be replaced on the exterior, then I have to come to you, right?
Is that
Now, and mind you, this is just covering zoning. This is not covering building, that is still up to the applicant to contact
The building
The
official
building
about
official.
what permits are needed under building.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry.
just wanted to add that.
Yeah, this is gonna be ongoing.
So for minor work, again, we've included that as a definition. Minor work is deemed, do not substantially alter the visual character of the structure or site, does require an application and issuance of a certificate of appropriateness. It's called an administrative certificate of appropriateness, and we issue it out of my office. And again, if we would approve this if the work is consistent with these guidelines that are before you. If the department does not approve the application, or if the work is questionable as to whether it's consistent with the guidelines, then we may push this application over to the HDRB for you to weigh in on it. And then lastly, we included a definition for major work, which again changes the appearance of a building or site and are more substantial than routine maintenance or minor projects. They include changes from the original design or material or replacement, alteration, or removal of an original feature. And they do require an application and issuance of a C of A by the HDRB. And again, we reference that these new guidelines would be in place to reference the classification of work. We've also indicated they must schedule, in some areas you're gonna see we've added a Collins area for zoning inspection, for staff inspection of these things. Because part of this, as you know, for the last 2+ years, we've been trying to go back and ensure that we are inspecting your permits, that things are being installed and constructed according to the scope of work you guys approved, or I approved administratively. So we're just trying to ensure the property owners now aware there's an inspection required, that we're gonna be back on your property, not just at the application standpoint, we're gonna be there during the life of your project closes out, and we're confirming you've done it according to what you told us you were gonna do.
Major work.
Yep.
Major work projects require application issuance of a COA by the HDRB. For line of sight, we can't see it from the public access road, then we're not involved.
Well, we're gonna talk about it because that's broken out within the chart, between what is viewable from the street versus the backyard.
All right.
Yep,
So,
we're gonna get to it. It's not
that's not a
contained,
correct statement, though.
what?
That's not a correct statement. Because you're saying you can talk about it in the checklist or whatever I call it.
That's correct. A detailed classification of work chart can be found in Appendix G. So Appendix G, which we're gonna go through next,
Right.
details those differentials, yes.
I understand that.
Okay? As I mentioned, then we took out 227, and we are proposing a very modified section for 227 now. Because again, we felt 227 got fully encapsulated and covered in the section that we proposed just above that we went through. And the guidelines are gonna replace a lot of that language. But in 227, we included a statement of declaration of unsafe or dangerous conditions. Nothing in this ordinance shall be construed to prevent any measures necessary to correct an unsafe or dangerous condition of a property in the historic district. Temporary measures may be taken as directed by the zoning administrator and code official without obtaining a certificate of appropriateness. Again, we just wanted to make sure that sometimes that happens, a situation has arisen, that I hear from the building official, or I've noted something that it cannot continue to exist. I've got a danger that's happened with that condition, and we need to take immediate steps to the property owner to get that corrected. Okay? So we wanted to make sure there's language in there. The next place that we're proposing changes is in 32.230. We've added a sentence, the intent of the guidelines is to ensure that changes within the district are compatible with the district's historic and architectural character. Everything else is staying the same.
Has the lawyer reviewed this text?
We have not sent this back out to the attorney yet, because again, until I get to a draft document, council feels is what represents their concerns and issues, then I'll finally go to the attorney to review before we head it out for public hearing. Okay?
Changes 13, where we said that we're gonna have the site come back in.
Sorry, which page am I on? Not there yet, sorry, I'm working my way through.
15 is your next change.
Thank you. Page 13. Appreciate it. And that's in section 32.236. I know it's hard to see, is the only little green dash through.
So why was the site plan recommended?
Well, actually, we talked about this today, and Katie can correct me if I'm wrong, since I'm the one that made the note on the page. We decided that we do need to add that back in,
Yeah.
but in parentheses, required by zoning.
Right, so, yeah, so we need this, so.
You
know,
don't
we still-
require site
You all don't
plans,
require, we do.
zoning does.
Right, but we still, so from a historic district review board perspective, we look at it because it looks, how does it look in the neighborhood?
Neighborhood,
How
yes.
they use the land, the property that they
Yeah,
have.
sure.
But this is just saying, we're not asking, you're asking.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay.
So that's what we would ask you guys tonight. Yes, the Civic League recommended striking site plans from this section. I would request that the site plans come back in, but we would again add that with the caveat, site plans as required by the zoning ordinance.
So what was the?
Mr. Grossman?
Yeah, the reason we took it out was because it was a zoning requirement and not an HRB item, all right?
Okay.
Okay, so we,
I'm not sure we'll eventually argue in the future over the degree of site plans needed for such a submittal. But right now, that was the reason we took it out in here, that's zoning and not historic.
And again, I think adding site plans as required by the zoning ordinance, at least make people aware that they may have to have a site plan if the zoning ordinance has dictated it. Yes.
And that's for minor and major.
It could be, depending upon the scope of work.
That's the site plan versus survey.
Sometimes they can be combined into one. Again, it depends upon the scope of work. Appendix B, I should know this off the top of my head, deals with,
But those are your purview.
yeah, site plans
C.
and yes, in Appendix C, site plan ordinance also deals with surveying. So it deals with both entities in there, and it talks about where things get triggered for, and what's required to be in those documents. And I think that was it for the changes to the overlay. So without you taking any action, I say let's stop and let's now delve into the meat of the matter, which is the Appendix G, the new document you have before you. So, I did make one mistake in the header. I really am trying to get this year over with, I don't know why. So it's the draft document, it's crossed through July 31 of 2025, and it came out from the Civic League November 11th, it really was 2025. I like to think there's time travel, but I'm wrong. So it's not 2026 that they did this document, it was 2025. With that said, again, just to remind you, staff developed proposed guidelines are in the black font, Civic League Committee amendments are in the green font or green strike throughs. So the basic premise of this for the public at large watching is we identify the type of work. We then have a couple of columns over here, routine maintenance, minor work, major work, and inspection required. The last column, which I'm going to express my own position on this, and I think the building official wants to add a little thought on this. The Civic League requested a code official column be added in here to show which of these items would require a code official review or permits from. Here are my thoughts on this, and then you can take it from there. I don't want to commingle what is the responsibility of planning and zoning, and we staff the historic board, versus the code official, which is a different department. I will tell you, every time we issue any approvals or disapprovals, in anything, there's a right of appeal that's automatically given to all of them because that's allowed under zoning. There is a right of appeal on every decision that comes out of this office. And then with that said, if we get to an approval, we also include a statement on anything that comes out of our office on your behalf as the Historic District Review Board is, they need to check with the building department to determine if a building permit is required. Because not everything requires it. There are some exceptions that I can't say for every accessory structure a building permit is required. Because the building code allows structures of accessory nature under a certain square footage, no permit, but after a certain square footage, permit. Depending on the level of replacement of some of your materials. Re-roofing, if you're doing a whole re-roofing, yes, it requires a building permit. But if you're only doing a portion of it, it may not require a building permit. It is based upon the scope of work that is being proposed for every parcel determines his review and whether a permit is required of the building official. So that, for me, I don't want to start trying to include his authority under what is a document that I oversee on your behalf and administer with you on your behalf as well. But I open the floor to our building official if he wants to weigh in on this issue. As well as, since Paul is here speaking from the committee, maybe you can shed more light on why the Civic League is looking for this to be added.
Yeah, I'll start since we propose it. And again, what we're trying to do is say, Appendix G, we like the format. We like this being sold to the public as being a methodology for depicting what is required. And we felt that, geez, the building official would have to get involved in a number of these items, and at the same time, identify, if possible, maybe it's not possible, which of those require building official input, so that it isn't overlooked and the person does add the beam and doesn't realize that, oh, I didn't know that.
Right.
So that was the intent, is to kind of make it more official for public use.
I'll say, as it's written, it's not clear and cut enough for me to be able to tell you yes or no on every one of these. Katie gave me this about a week ago, and I went through it pretty extensively, and I had 15 to 20 that were, if it was this, yes, if it were this, no. It's not specific enough for me to be able to give a clear-cut answer. Take that for what it's worth. I mean,
Then
it's
how
just,
would the owner know?
what's that?
How would the owner know?
I think, again, we can include the same sentence that we put on all your certificates of appropriateness, is you need to check with the building department if a building permit is required for any level of this work here. Yes. So, and maybe through Jeb's process, we can go back and at least look at the routine maintenance items. I don't think any of those would require a building permit that have been flagged as routine maintenance. And maybe we can make that really clear here and say, anything that's in the routine maintenance, no building permit is required, if that's true. So we maybe could get a little clarity there, but anything that's a minor or major work, they would need to check with the building official or the building department to determine if the building permit would be required as well.
Do you see anything, Jeff, in the routine maintenance that would require a building permit?
You know, I didn't look at it from that angle. If you could give me a few minutes while y'all discuss, I'll be glad to give you kind of an answer here in a minute.
Thank you.
I have a comment on the routine maintenance items. There are some things, and I know that it was brought up later in the document, repairs versus replacement. We have changed our guidelines to where if you have an older house and they have certain items, they can't replace it with the same thing.
That's actually stated, and I actually put the Cape Charles Historic.
Shutters are a good example.
That's why I went through with my comments and I tried to add, I apologize that I did this review before our town ordinance was codified, but I hope you could go back and actually see. So, and we're gonna use the definitions that we already have in place in the guidelines and in actually our zoning ordinance, so.
And a good example of that is under accessory structures, where we added a B, item B. Item A is, I'm gonna replace like for like. Item
What
B
is like
is,
for like?
well, I take wood out and I put wood back in. Okay, B is I can't find the ability for that wood or that replacement, and that all of a sudden kicks it up into a degree of review by.
So I went through the guidelines to see if I could find like for like, and it's different in every section. One section describes it as exact physical and visual match, period. Another section is very specific, match in material composition, shape, size, dimension, profile, location, finish, and means of installation.
Okay.
So which one do we take?
Well, that's what you have to decide, and it should be in your ordinance space as well.
It's different,
It
different
is.
sections.
Actually, so I'm gonna back you up for a second. We do have a definition in our zoning ordinance for repairs. Repairs are any or all work involving the replacement of existing work with equivalent material for the purpose of maintenance, but not including any addition, change, or modification in construction.
So that's why I was saying
That's in,
the
but that's
repairs.
not in here.
But your zoning ordinance trumps your guidelines. Zoning ordinance is your law first.
That's
Okay.
why I put the notes,
Yeah.
is because they were trying to be more clear. In the appendix G, some of the line items are not consistent with the.
Yeah, I saw it.
And we were attempting to take the word equivalent out when we were kicking around the repair.
That's
So
even more
it
ambiguous.
wasn't left up to an individual to say, they took something out, something equivalent. No, like for like is, and that's why we were looking at a different definition by striking that word. And adding A and B to clearly say if I have a change, it typically is material. Then it kicks it up into a review by the office staff.
Right.
And that's consistent all the way through appendix G, that's how we approached it.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because currently today, just so everybody's clear of what we do, if they're coming in to do a equivalent materials change, if it's like for like, I can approve it today administratively. If they look to change that material, that's going to the board as a whole, any material. So talk front porch. So maybe wood, and they want to move to,
ASAP.
thank you, AZAC, thank you. That goes to you. I don't review it. It may be considered like for like, but that's how we have ruled it, and that's how we've been operating for the last 2 years of handling anything. If they're gonna change material where it's not exactly the same, then it's kicking over to you to weigh in on that, and whether that's get approved or not approved.
Which is still in our zoning, well, for the proposed zoning
Yes.
ordinance. But it's under, instead of under minor, I believe it was under major. So the work that, some of the minor work that would need to be changed, we're keeping the town code, chapter 32, section 8, I'm sorry, article 8, then we would have to just consistently do it, so we don't have a lot of, you gotta look at all kinds of different documents when you're doing this, so that's why I made these notes. So I guess the easiest way is to go maybe, is the down.
I know.
I thought it was just.
I'm freezing too.
My hands are so cold right now.
I haven't been in this building in a while, it's just me.
And you're usually the cold one.
I am cold.
I'm having a hard time holding my pen, I apologize.
It's on 65.
Okay, so I don't wanna keep, let's get a little focus on how we're gonna approach this. So we could just actually go down, I recognize some of these are gonna be themes that we're gonna have to ensure if we treat it this way under this category, we treat it this way under all the categories. So we are right now under, so again, we put painting up front, it's out of order, we understand that. But that came out early on, let's get it up there right at the beginning of this chart, so you don't have to go looking anywhere else. I don't mind repeating it again in the chart, but we did add painting or repainting of a non-masonry structure does not require approval. So that's right up front for everybody to see. Next one was the accessory structures.
Excuse me.
Yes.
There's something.
Yeah, it's always been that.
I could use that base paint. Right?
I don't control that issue at all under zoning.
Guess I'll look at the man in the corner.
What was the
He's,
question?
what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to stick with what the items on here. So why she was noting that out is because it says non-masonry structures, because you know, you can't paint those. So that's why that's out of order.
Okay, so coming down, again, we deal with the category of accessory structures or buildings. And again, within that, there are several classifications that we're proposing to break out, whether it is routine maintenance, minor work, or major work. So again, I'm not gonna go through each one, but they are there. This is a theme you're gonna see all the way through the document. So yes, a repairs, replacement, when there is no change in design, materials, or general appearance, that's routine. Do we agree with that in general concept?
Yes,
Okay. Kathy, you had something you?
we're getting there.
Okay. Next one, again, this is a general theme all the way through the document. Repairs, replacement to existing, there's no change in design or general appearance, but a change in materials. And again, like, they're proposing that we change the definition of repairs to get rid of equivalent to say like for like. And they would propose that to be minor work.
And they refer in a couple other areas that a list of acceptable materials can be found in the guidelines. We do not have a specific list.
You're right, we don't. And we're gonna have to talk about that. Now's as good a time as any to talk about that. So in the guidelines, what you do have is chapter 7, thank you, that allows for alternative materials to be proposed by the applicant and considered by the board to see if you would say yay or nay to that.
But it doesn't specify the material.
I get it, and that's something we're going to have to change again, they included that as a comment. They didn't provide what those alternative materials or equivalent materials should or could be. They really were leaning back to us, and that's going to be my response to that for the council is we built in our document of guidelines a process for the applicant to come forward and propose an alternative materials and why that would be deemed acceptable or not. And I'm happy to go through what that process is, but it's all in chapter 7, yes. Going through again, what would be the third item of this, additions or alterations to existing or new construction that cannot be seen from the public right-of-way would be considered minor work.
So I could put a 20-foot addition on the back of my house, and it's minor work,
This is an accessory
if
structure.
you can't see it from the road.
This is an accessory structure.
I have it, if I put an addition on my accessory,
For your purposes of review, yes, because all you're reviewing is what? Again, what is your job as the historic board? Aesthetic issues of how an addition,
changes the
any changes to it, how it addresses and conforms to any structures that may be on there, how does it bolster, support the existing architecture that's on the property. That's what your job is. Yours is not reviewing whether that's an unreasonable addition in relation to the rest of the property. That's zoning. I'm already doing that before it gets to you, okay? Okay. And then the next broad category is additions or alterations to existing or new construction that can be seen from the public right-of-way would be major work.
Can you color me stupid? I don't know where you are.
So I'm in number 2. I got A, B,
Oh, okay.
then I've crossed out C, D, I've added a new C, crossed out D, E, F, added a new D. That's where I am, is the new D.
Thank you.
Yep.
so the only difference really with the addition is can you see it from the street or not?
Yeah.
And that changes minor versus major.
That's correct.
Why?
Say it again?
Why?
Yes.
It's a structure, but whether it's even seen or not.
It's a building problem, not our problem.
But that's a zoning issue, it's not necessarily your purview of historic
Wait,
district review. board.
Yeah, we review the
Okay.
historic district, when we do admin approvals, we do review the guidelines, but.
I get all that, I guess I'm confused with
Yeah.
the minor versus
Thank
major work. How does it change? that
Oh, it's
category?
supposed to mimic the.
Major work requires different things than minor work, that's really the only reason it's.
It basically is saying if it's minor work, I can review it for compliance and approve it at that point. Versus major work, you're taking it up for your meeting process to determine if this is okay or not. Minor stuff, I'm in the backyard, nobody else can see it but the backyard. Or maybe the person in the other
So
backyard.
minor or major is for us, not zoning. That goes categories. Okay, that's why minor, we don't care about, major we do.
Right.
Got it. Thank you.
Minor work still gets a certificate of appropriateness, but I can approve it as an administrative approval. So we're trying to take things that still, we need to make sure they are keeping in context with the overlay district, keeping in context with your guidelines. But can I get through that process versus you guys getting through that process?
I think it's confusing because of the name, minor work, major work.
It sounds like a zoning thing, not an
If it'll help you for the moment, Katie work, board work. Does that help you for the minute?
That's
Yes.
wonderful.
Okay.
That is perfect.
Just for the minute, that's it. But when this document gets accepted, my name better not sit up there. That's all I can say.
Can you think of a better name or a better way to describe it?
HDRB
No, I mean,
or not.
it is a category that designates what we do, not what the work is.
Yes.
It-
HDRB approved it.
Right.
We're not involved in it because it's not I see.
No, I mean, I let
Here.
Katie work, board work.
Well,
And I'm gonna say, it ties back to what we just went over, your overlay chapter, we have 3 classifications, routine maintenance, minor work, major work. So the ordinance details what's the difference
I
between them.
looked at the agenda.
So,
And the definition of minor work does say
Yeah,
that, that you, Katie, have the latitude
Administrator.
to
That's
do
correct.
it, to send an application to the HDRB.
That's correct.
If there's a borderline call.
yes,
Right.
that's correct.
yeah, because we've seen some things and I'm like,
Okay.
why?
So I think that kind of sets the parameters of how these are all structured this way. I'm not gonna say every single category has all 4 of those, but that gets you the basic idea. So moving our way through, we have a category of architectural details. I know the Civic League had asked us to define the architectural details.
Those are defined in the architectural guidelines, like the
Yeah,
difference
we
between
see
clean
it,
and
That's what I
colonial.
We see it as an overlap with item 13 and item 33. And, you know, if you put those 3 together, I'm not sure of what falls into
Well,
what.
we
So
go,
architectural details and significant features is what you're kind of talking about?
There.
No, item 13, take a look at the features not specifically listed,
Right.
all right? And then 33 was,
they're talking about where you all get that from. We do go by the architectural character of a building.
Yeah.
In the chapter 3.1 of the Cape Charles Historic District Overlay Design Guide.
all right, we searched for it, we couldn't find it. Okay, all right, that's fine.
So, yeah, like significant features would be like gable roof versus hip roof.
All right, if it's there, that's fine, I
But
can
it's
go
all
back
on
and
there,
find it.
depending on the architectural style.
And I think it's worth us saying, under the architectural details, we make reference to
That would be
where
very
you
good.
locate that in the guidelines, in the other chapters in the guidelines.
Yeah,
And we can definitely do that,
yeah.
okay? So again, if they're replacing, no change in design materials or appearance, that's routine maintenance. If they're getting no change in design or general, but change in materials, that's considered minor work.
Which would be actually, if it's a change in material, right? This is where I had to comment, because on the proposed new code, town code, it does say that minor, you keep everything the same, major is a change. So I think that was one of my questions, right? No change.
I feel, as your staffer, I feel a little nervous on this one being under minor work.
Yeah.
I think if you're gonna change materials of an architectural detail that helps define a house style, and you're gonna change that material, I think that's the purview of the board, not of staff. So for me, I would recommend that one move over from minor to major work. But that's just me making that recommendation, you guys would have to decide if that's what you wanna do.
I agree with you, Katie.
Planning commission, if you guys wanna chime in as well, please feel free to do that. So.
Because-
So say the architectural detail is like, fish scales on the side of the retort, right? So if they're changing, so if the original was wood, and they're changing to something that is like wood equivalent, looks like wood, but isn't really wood, I would think that you would be able to approve that without coming to the board.
Depends on how it looks.
What,
Yeah.
so
We
if
had-
the fish scales look the same, and it's just like tracks, as opposed to wood, right, which deteriorates fast, right, it's some kind of like material, I don't think we should have to look at that. If they wanna take the fish scales off, then they gotta come here.
And wouldn't
Right?
this, yeah, wouldn't this fall into exactly
Yeah, I
the
think
language
there's a
that
lot
we
of
just
them that are
talked about
kinda-
under minor work? That if it's a borderline call, if it's the same material, if it's different material, but there's no change in the general appearance.
Yeah.
But you're sort of a little
Yeah, I don't
unsure as
For
to whether.
for the type of
whether-
material,
For the type
Yeah.
of material,
yes,
Because,
then wouldn't you still be
I
able,
could.
under the minor work,
Right.
to
absolutely,
forward the application to the board?
absolutely I could.
That sounds like exactly the type of case that's contemplated by that language.
Yeah. So if they're not gonna change the architectural detail, but just the material that it's made out of, if you're not comfortable with it, send it to the board.
Right, I just wanted to raise the issue while I had you all here, so.
If it's gonna look the same, and it's gonna hold up, we're worried about the appearance of the building from the street and keeping with all of those architectural details that are consistent with like Queen Anne, colonial, Gothic, whatever, folk Victorian. I don't know that we always care about what materials they're using.
But that's why you all have, for our contributing structures, that's why they went through and did the chapter 7,
The alternative
the
materials.
alternative
Right,
materials.
exactly.
Because that's what you all are supposed to be reviewing.
So I don't disagree, I think what would make our life easier, and I'm not saying we have that product or information today, but I think getting to the point that we can have a better document of what is deemed like for like or equivalent materials, replacement materials. I'd love for our office to get to that point, working with the board as a whole, trying to figure those answers out as soon as we can. So,
Yeah, but there's something that says that you can't determine it to be major work,
right.
Right, that's what I'm gonna say. If minor work, you can look at it and you say yes, or no, it's gotta go to the board.
Sure.
So,
I can live with that solution, absolutely. Keep this as minor work, knowing that I may, depending upon my comfort level, kick some of these to you to look at from a material standpoint, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Moving down to awnings, canopies, so we separated, they requested separating out shutters, it's its own category further down, so awnings and canopies. Again, no change from from what staff was proposing this to show up as. Repair and place with no change in design would be routine maintenance. Installation of additions / removals of existing would be major work. And that's it for that one. Buildings relocation would be major work. Everybody good so far? Carports. Again, would have no change in design, materials, or general appearance would be routine. If they're looking to change material, it would be considered minor work. New construction not seen from the public right of way would be minor. If seen from the public right of way, it would be major. Okay. Certificate of appropriateness, this specifically deals with modifications to previously approved.
Application, summary of application should go in there.
Modification to previously approved applications or approved C of As. That's really what they are issued when it's all said and done. Yep. That is considered minor work. Depending upon what they are doing to it, could require HDRB approval as to what they are seeking to modify. And renewal of any expiring C of As would be minor work that I could approve. Are we in the right spot? We good?
We are.
Okay. Jimmy's is next. So again, I'm not going to keep reading each one, but I think you kind of get the flavor of how this is structured. So I'll just kind of point out what is considered routine maintenance. Reflash existing caps, stucco, caulking when there is no change in design materials or appearance would be routine maintenance. The other items would either be minor work or major work. Decks. Again, if there's no change in design materials or dimensions or appearance, that'd be routine maintenance. Minor work would be if they're changing materials. New construction, alteration, additions, removal would be under major work.
And what if it was in the back where you can't see it?
They didn't delineate that in this particular section. I would say we probably should be consistent and add that in there so that we have one that is
Because I
visible from the street
remember
or
we
not
had a
visible.
porch.
Porches are in the front.
No, I know, but
Sorry.
they had like a little, I wouldn't call it, more like a kind of portico on the back. But anyway, the determination was if it's in the back and it can't be seen,
Yep.
that it's okay.
So we can recommend adding that breaking out between street view versus non-street view.
Good for public access.
Okay. Then doors, exterior. Again, maintenance for no change in design materials or appearance. If there is a change in materials, that would be minor. Alterations, additions, removal, when there is a change in style or opening size, that would be major. And new installation or new openings, example, changing a window to a door, that would also be major. Everybody good?
Yeah.
If it's a storm door, installation for the front of the house only. Again, repairs, no change in design, materials, dimensions, or appearance would be routine. If we change the materials, it would be minor. If it's a brand new installation, it would be minor.
Why? Yes, 'cause it's
Say that again, I can't hear you.
Oh, I was just sorry. Why did that become minor?
Why did what?
New installation.
Yeah, I think, again, this is our recommendation. It was a matter of the door exterior is more important than the storm door. And that's why we felt moving into the minor.
They don't usually approve storm doors, do they?
We have one.
Yeah, in the past, because they were already doing one with it, but most of the time,
Because it
storm
covers
doors come to the
their
office.
historic door.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when somebody wants a blacked out one, but most people do like just a regular full glass.
Okay, for driveways, again, repairs, replacements, no change in design, materials, dimensions, or appearance, that would be routine. If it's new construction, alteration, addition, removal of existing when there is a change in design, materials, dimensions, or appearance, that would be major work.
Do we care about removal? They shrink their driveway, does that need to be HDRB approved?
To shrink the driveway, we have that, they have specific dimensions that they have to reach in our zoning ordinance.
To have a
Right,
driveway.
but that doesn't mean it has to be made. I'm saying, does that have to come before us if they're gonna shrink the driveway?
Occasionally, I'm gonna throw out, because I can think of one right now in my brain, one added an addition that aided to the driveway. So they removed the driveway to add to the house.
And that comes under dimensions.
Then we come to, I think, Paul, and I hope you clarify me on this, on topic 13, features not specifically listed. I don't know if your comment was saying that this plus another one further down, plus the one we just previously discussed earlier, should be combined into just one topic?
Yeah, that's where we were getting confused on how to split it, you know.
So this is
When
back
you say
to
features
architectural
not-
details versus features not specifically listed versus,
Right, we pulled out
Significant
just the
features.
definition, you know, of architectural feature. It may or may not apply here, it may apply on item 3 or whatever we just talked about.
I think we threw out features not specifically listed because, yeah, it's sort of thinking, maybe we're not thinking of everything when we were writing this from a staff, so we gave us a catch-all category.
So like when Hunter Tree wanted to paint over the Coca-Cola sign, that was a significant historical feature. But they couldn't be replaced and it had to be approved in order to paint over it. That's not an architectural detail, but it is a significant
That's a great
service,
example, yeah.
you
You
know.
all
treatment.
they did come to
Yeah.
us.
Well, they already.
Yeah, so, well, so,
That
yeah.
too, yes,
But,
after the fact.
but that would be something that would be like a significant architectural, a treatment of a different surface or an architectural detail.
But if you don't
Maybe
give a
not covered
definition
by
or
any of
some
these other
a
things.
set of examples,
Yeah.
people aren't gonna know what this category means.
Yeah,
Going, oh, well, mine must feed into this and I'm gonna call it routine and it's just, there's more that needs to be added to define what this category covers.
yeah, so I mean, so we can refer to the architectural guidelines, which talk about each of the houses and features that are applied on there, whether they're gabled roofs, steeply pitched roofs, hip roofs, those kinds of things. So it's determined by if you're a contributing building and it's a folk Victorian, there are certain features that are always going to be seen on folk Victorians.
That was the note, it's a
Yeah.
note because of the
Gingerbread.
3.1.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, folk Victorian versus a full Victorian, those are two different architectural styles. So, I mean, you may be able to combine them into, but certain, like features that are not covered by any of these other ones, that Coca-Cola sign is the best example I can think of, that you would want the historic district review board to look
Or
at.
some sort of sculpture on the house.
Right, exactly, yeah. So corbels are like, when the handrails on a porch, like both Victorian, one of them are turned, some of them are square. They have to be kind of one or the other, whereas
Well-
on a, yeah,
The handrails, I think we pointed that out.
Yeah.
And
so,
Paul, to your question of having it in different places, I think you can take the one out of the accessory buildings and just put all architectural detail in one.
Yeah, well, whatever, that's, I'm just saying, it was confusing for us, and again, we're not steeped in knowledge as you guys. Just didn't know, and here, Joe Public, I picked this up and I go, oh, okay, I'm gonna add a roof, like, I
And the
know.
architectural detail is under accessory structures, it's its own category of
Right.
architectural
In
details.
the previous section.
It's number 3.
Right, then why is it
2
again?
is accessory structures, because it's alphabetical. That's all we're doing is trying to make this an alphabetical list. So accessory structures
Then it
is
should
its own
be again
category.
under features not listed.
That's what we're trying to say. So
Yeah.
we probably should combine features not specifically listed within
Architectural detail.
architectural details, and I think it also comes down to
it may be surface
33.
treatments as
30,
well.
thank you, 33, which is significant features, alteration and removal.
Right.
So 13, 33, and 3 should come together. Okay?
Okay.
So with that said, if I jump to fences, are we good?
Yep.
Fences, repair, replacement with approved materials from the guidelines, that would be routine maintenance. New construction, alteration of placement. I'm actually gonna come back to fences because they have to get zoning review. So if they're replacing with the approved materials, as long as they're staying within the same height that's allowed in the zoning ordinance, I'm fine. So I just would expand that definition or category with approved materials and in compliance with the zoning requirements for fences. And I'm happy to cite that section too.
What about the person that has a vinyl fence and needs to replace one section? Vinyl is not an approved material for fencing anymore.
I actually had that question, and I don't think you all,
With approved materials from the guidelines.
yeah.
Vinyl fencing is not an approved material.
Then they couldn't
They
replace it
couldn't
with
do it.
vinyl is what we're saying.
we've
It
only
has to
had
be with
one
the approved
comment.
Just one
materials.
section?
They would have to replace with an approved material. Yes.
That would look pretty bad at my.
I'm not saying it wouldn't look bad.
No, but if that came to us, we could talk about it.
It wouldn't come to you, it'd be routine maintenance.
Katie, what about the situation where, let's say you have a wooden picket fence and you have one slat fence that's rotted out? I assume that would be
That's routine maintenance.
routine maintenance.
Repair replacement with approved materials.
Right, but
From the
why?
guidelines.
Right, it seems to differ just a little bit from previous language in the other sections that says no change in design, materials, dimension, appearance. So if I replace wood with wood, why do, in this section, is the language different? It says with approved materials instead of just like.
I think
select.
because what you just heard from Kathy is vinyl used to be an approved material, it is no longer an approved material in the district.
Okay, so that's for the change in the.
That is to address that very change in the ordinance and in the guidelines that vinyl is out. And we do not want vinyl to continue in the district.
If
You
you have it.
can have it, great, but if you need to upgrade or replace, you're out.
But if the material is still okay, you could,
Unless you're gonna replace any component of it, of your fence, then you have to get rid of the vinyl.
Right, but that's routine maintenance, which we would never see. So they do vinyl with vinyl, we would never know that. It's just
They
routine.
can't, because vinyl is no longer an approved material for fences in our guidelines or in the ordinance.
I understand.
That's why it's written that way with approved materials from the guidelines. Vinyl is out as a fencing choice,
Okay, all right.
okay?
So if you have it, you put it on the whole,
Yeah.
Go out there in the middle of the night and change the slabs.
That's right.
So again, I would just tack in there as well with approved materials from guidelines and compliance with the zoning ordinance that deals with fences. That deals with the height and distance away from the setbacks, things of that nature. Because the height is different if you do it in the front of the yard versus the back of the yard. There are different height requirements allowed there.
I still have a problem with it being routine maintenance. If you have to take your vinyl fence down and put a wooden fence up, that's an approved material. But that's not routine maintenance, that's a change completely in the design.
So I would consider that new construction at that point.
Yeah.
Which only requires minor,
Which is minor, that's correct.
but still think it can
Which
have.
you can approve.
I can approve that.
Yeah, we have an application process.
What
Well, isn't
percentage of replacement?
The word, the replacement is what gets you caught up in,
Right.
hey,
What percentage of the fence
versus
is
That's
replaced?
why I wanted
new
to,
construction.
yeah, I don't like that they're
50%?
together because
If the
they're
entire
not the same.
east side has to be replaced,
So let's take replacement, well, I don't know.
Why would it not make sense if they just said repair?
Well, so then,
Yeah.
what if it says just repair with approved materials from the guidelines and in compliance with the zoning ordinance? Then that would be routine maintenance. And we added new construction
Slash replacement.
/replacement / alteration of placement. And that would be minor.
so you took the replacement out of,
Out of A, and we
okay,
added it to B,
I approved that.
okay? Foundations. And again, this one, slight change versus repair of exposed to existing when there's no change in design, materials, or general
well,
appearance.
the table is wrong. I went back and looked at our recommendation for B, we're saying that should be major. Somehow it got typed under, both of them under routine.
Has a house on piers, but it's not all enclosed. If they want to enclose it, that would be major work, correct?
Correct. That's what we're suggesting.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate.
No, Paul, it came in as exactly
Addition,
that.
alteration.
Okay, it could be. I have my markup from our meetings, and all I'm saying is that we may have put it in the wrong box
Put
there,
it as routine
and it should
maintenance.
be under major.
It's routine maintenance.
Okay, so.
It was under major, then crossed out, and then went to.
Because that's what we
That's what
have.
they had, yeah.
Okay, so you want it to read major.
Yeah, that's what I'm,
So B should be major, correct? Not,
A or
Just
Not
read-
routine.
if you.
B should be major,
Okay,
is that correct?
yes, because that would be like added cinder blocks.
and then you have to go back to your case-by-case review
Yeah.
and add back in
Mhm.
your inspection.
I mean, you're not gonna add a foundation without that's also putting the structure on top of it, so it's kind of comes into new construction. You know, I did it of a room or something, so adding a foundation by itself.
I mean, I think the example given early on of a crack being repaired is routine maintenance.
Right.
You're just repairing a crack, that's one thing, but if you're gonna like add, like, full cinder blocks along with the piers, or you're gonna change the materials, then it becomes different.
Okay. So I'm gonna stop for just a second. I know Jeb was doing some work. I don't know if he's at a point where you wanna talk to us about your column or
Sure.
that nature as it relates to routine maintenance.
Yeah, so.
Because it gives us some flavor where we are with routine maintenance. We're 15 items in to give you an idea of what we're classifying as routine.
So, 41 total items on here as routine. 25 of them are pretty clear, cut and dry, that do not require a permit. There's 6 that absolutely do, and then there's 10 that are very questionable. I'll give you an example. Let's just go to number 9, decks. So,
What is it?
deck number 9, decks. Repair or replace of existing when there's no change in design, materials, dimensions, or appearance. So if they're just changing deck boards, doesn't require a permit. Had one the other day, a gentleman came in to get a permit, told him none was required. I said, unless you get into the structural components of it. he tears it off, realizes that almost all the structural is damaged and has to be replaced, so then he has to come in and get a permit. So that line item is not clear cut and dry for me to say yes or no.
That surface or structure.
Yeah, but then if you're gonna get into that, then you're gonna have so many more line items.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's true with a lot of our stuff. When you get into the repair part, and then you start getting into it, and you go, oh, whoa, no, I gotta do
Well,
all this.
that's why it's like, it's very hard for me to give clear cut answers on this, as it's written.
So it's case by case.
It's very case by case, yeah.
That's a case by case for whether it's zoning or HDRB, both.
So maybe as we go through this, if I'm thinking through this, Jen. Accessory structures, that's a case by case. Architectural details, that could be case by case, depending on what detail they're dealing with. Awnings and canopies, same thing.
So I had, a case by case for number 2, architectural details. I didn't see anything about structural in there like I did in the next section that y'all are talking about on the other, the features not specifically listed. That's a question mark there. But for number 2 or number 3, I don't think permits are gonna be required for me from that one. Awnings and canopies, I've said, permits not required for a repair or replacement.
But new,
But new is not under routine maintenance.
okay.
I just went and did the routine maintenance.
Got it. No, Jen, got it.
But how about a replacement?
So I think it's
That's
useful
the
to,
one where he has to know exactly what's.
I mean,
So right now, we're just focused, if it's got the check in the routine maintenance, does that require a building permit? That was the thing we're trying to verify here, yea or nay, okay. So then if I come down to
carports,
carports,
I'm saying yes, a permit's required for replacement of a carport if it
yes, Jim,
is treated as an accessory building if it meets a certain square footage.
okay. Then next was chimneys,
No permit.
reflash, no Jim.
Decks is case by case.
Jim, please.
Doors for replacement, I say, a permit's not required.
Jim, no.
Storm door, no permit required.
I have a quick question. I still get, I mean, we need to pull all of the repair versus replacement out. You can, for the deck, replacement of existing.
Hold that thought, let Jeb finish what he's doing with
Okay.
the routine maintenance, and we'll come back to that one, Kathy. Jeb was no on storm doors,
Yeah.
maintenance, driveways,
No.
no, Jeb, no.
So the next one, that's where, the top section of it, I would say no permits required, but then you get talking about structural components like columns, archers, decorative features, that would require permits.
So we'll say case by case. Okay.
Fences, no permit. Foundations and foundation vents are real case by case, all 3 of those.
Okay. And I'm
Well,
stopping,
we moved one of them out. So to 2 of those, 15A and 16A.
16. I'm gonna stop there because that's where we're catching up to ourselves.
Okay.
Jeb and me, okay, so
Yeah, it's case by case.
he said for foundations, I thought he said 15A and 15B.
No, 15B is already at a different level, at major. So it's 15A and 16A.
Sorry, 15A and 16A is Jeb, no.
No, I'm saying case by case.
Case by case, I apologize. Jeb, case by case. Thank you. Okay. So Kathy, you wanted to open back up a conversation that started under fences about including replacement as part of repairs. And you wanted to revisit that for all the ones
Well,
that just
it's
done,
all-
or what?
Many of the sections, it says replacement, when there's no change in design, materials, dimensions. So if I have a deck, but it's rotten and fallen down, I could replace the entire deck.
Without,
That's replacement?
without coming to, you can replace your deck without coming to the board if it can't be seen from the public. That doesn't mean you don't need a building
Yeah,
permit.
see, that's where this is,
Yeah,
that's where we're trying to separate
it's
the
not-
Doesn't mean you don't
We
need
just
zoning,
said
so
on
they
that,
have to
on the
come.
fences, the
Yeah.
14, we were taking out the replacement on A and putting it down under B.
But there are many sections that have
Yeah,
replacement.
that's what I pointed out, is repairing and replacing are two different projects.
Yeah. And isn't replacement new construction?
from my world or zoning's world.
Even.
So I think you've raised a valid point of discussion for us. So I'm gonna bring you back to the first page, accessory structures, which is a building. It's a structure. Everything, think in your head, it could be garage to a gazebo to an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit. All are defined as accessory structures. And we're saying repairs or replacement to existing when there is no change in design, materials, or general appearance. So I want to tear it down. It's not a contributing structure in the district. We'll take that out of consideration. It's a non-contributing structure. So could I repair it? Yep. Can I replace it in whole? Tear it all the way down and rebuild it exactly as is. And that requires no permits, just routine maintenance. And say it's 250 square feet, which is under your threshold, right? Yes. So no building permit required to replace an accessory structure. So let's hit right next to the town hall. They did rebuilding the garage. That's a great example right now. I can't remember, did we put that, mine, I don't know.
No, that came to the
That came to the
board.
board as a whole, because I think they had, I can't remember, something happened.
Yeah.
But
They added some-
presume they
Just
just
you can see it.
replaced the whole thing, because it was old, it wasn't a contributing structure, it just was a non-contributing to the district, it was just old. They wanted to change it out, they want to keep the same square footage, same footprint, same materials, same everything.
But just build a new one.
That's replacement.
Which they are not doing. They are changing
I know,
materials
they're-
and sides, and so there's
I know, they had to
windows
come for
and.
this board, yes,
Right.
they did change some things. But I'm just giving you, just keep in mind some thoughts of that. So if saying nothing else had changed to that, would you want that to be reviewed at all? Is that really new construction? Is a replacement really a replacement, or is it new construction?
I would consider that new construction.
So Jeff, again, going back to some of the amendments in the beginning. So let's say you have this situation where, Paul mentioned the language saying that the property owner's on the hook for making their unilateral decision. But the replacement is routine maintenance, and they're wrong. What happens next?
Jeb doesn't do anything about it, I do. That's a zoning issue, I'm gonna say, Stop work?
Unless it requires a permit. If
and
it-
then we do a joint
right,
enforcement
We do
action.
a joint stop work order.
Yes.
Okay, so a stop work order would issue, and then they would have to
We outline,
They'd have to either stop, like eat the cost, I mean.
we
deal
would
with
outline what they would have to do
damages.
to get in compliance.
Right,
So
Okay.
yes, we would stop what they're doing and say, this does require review by the board, this does require a building permit, one or the other or both.
Paul, how
And,
does that?
and we
fit
gotta
into
get through that
these
process.
Discussions that you guys had, I mean, on that change in the
Yeah,
original
that was our
language.
intent. It's
Right.
up to the individual. We're trying to spoon feed them
Right.
with this kind of document
Right,
and saying, hey, you can't just do what you want to do, and if you have questions, ask.
right,
And, it's one thing to stop work, but then they get into violations,
Yeah.
and they,
Right.
have to come to the board, and there's extra dollars associated with that.
so there's a pretty strong incentive for them to sort of be diligent and.
And that's the
and penalties would
communication
be-
that has to
right.
be issued with this.
And the penalties would be substantial in the case of sort of misdiagnosing.
Or not.
A
People
replacement as minor.
will go, oh, I can handle $300, I can handle $500,
Right. Or not, right, okay.
But going back to my original question, Joe, if I have this nasty deck on the back of my house, if I want to completely remove it, tear it down, take it away, and build a new one that looks exactly like that, that's not new construction. That's,
I mean, where are you trying to go? It would require a permit, and it would require zoning. So, what everybody's missing is, just because it's not going to the board, doesn't mean that Katie's not reviewing it for setbacks, for, you know, all the things that a typical zoning administrator looks at, and then I'm reviewing it for building code compliance and issuing a permit and doing inspections.
No, they're talking about under routine, because we would not see that.
I mean, this is routine
Hold
maintenance.
on, yeah, we still would. So they would come in for a permit. Katie would still have to sign off on it from a zoning perspective.
No, not routine maintenance now. Routine-
As a zoning administrator, yes, she would. She would still have to make sure it met setbacks, which has nothing to do with historic
This whole
review.
table is historic.
This is
That's
all
it.
historic. This is not, so
historic
that's,
review.
No, what I'm saying is.
Am I right, Katie?
routine- No, for routine maintenance now, we're putting it, that's what Paul was saying, and Bill, that's why they were having that discussion.
Routine maintenance
Routine
requires
maintenance
nothing.
Katie.
Does not require.
Am
I'm listening.
am I missing something here?
You're not quite missing it, but what's happening under here, Jed, is saying even under routine maintenance. So replacement is what I think was throwing us off. So they're repairing an accessory structure that's out there in the district today, and they're just making some patchwork done. I'll have to give zoning clear.
No, let's go back to this deck she's talking about. You take a rear deck that encompasses the whole
It's
rear of the house,
listed
that they tear
here.
down and want to rebuild.
I would say that was me.
They're gonna have to come to me for a permit. Would you not give them zoning approval to say, yes, you
Oh,
meet the
if they come
setbacks?
through you,
Yes,
but
that's what I'm saying.
if they knew to, but for.
But it's being called routine maintenance, and we have determined that routine maintenance doesn't require us to.
But that's just from the historic world. That's not the zoning world. You're mixing the two. There's two different jobs Katie has here.
Yes.
There's two totally separate
I
jobs
do-
Katie has
You
to do.
did,
And
but
like
if you
it's-
did that at your house, at the historic district review board, if we can't see it from the street, we don't care. But,
Yeah, but I guess
No, but I
zoning
see
here.
what she's
we're trying to
saying.
make this,
Is she saying that if they're doing it and we're putting it in here, if they're saying, oh, well, I'm replacing my whole deck with,
So,
Would.
so if in a case-by-case analysis of Jeb's responsibility, does this require a permit from him?
they would go to him.
If he says it requires a permit, under every building permit application, there's an automatic obligation, I do zoning review, period. It
Yes.
has nothing to do with you guys, because I do it in his world for all of his permits. And part of it is, it may be as simple as, they're ripping out the whole kitchen and replacing it. I'm gonna write on his application, no zoning review required, move on. Or if it's
but
something
routine
you said, a deck,
maintenance doesn't even require me to tell you I'm doing it.
but it
Doesn't
may
require you
require
to-
going to
Doesn't
the
mean
building
that they don't
official.
consult you. I mean, they have to tell me, and then I in turn have to tell her.
Yeah. So
Depending
then-
on the size, or is it any deck?
And yes, if Jeb determines based upon the scope of work they told them they're trying to do on their deck, that didn't trigger coming under the historic guidelines of getting a permit, he can still say, I need a permit as the building official, and as soon as that happens,
It would trigger
then it
us.
triggers me having to review that application as well, under zoning in general.
I think that might be confusing of things that are in the routine maintenance category, that some people might think they don't have to do anything.
Well, that's why we're trying to resolve this question of what we tell people about Jeb's role in all of this. And are permits required from him? Can I include it in this chart somehow, some way, or put a major statement right at the top that tells people, you may need to check, not may, you need to check with the building department to
And
determine
that's
if
what
it's
we've
a
been
building.
doing all along. Just because you don't need historic approval, doesn't mean
That's
you
correct.
don't need a building permit.
That's correct. And again, if the building permit is required, that automatically is coupled with zoning review again. Yes. Am I catching it? Well, I'm doing it here, Deb, I hope I'm.
Yeah,
I think
I
so.
think they were just afraid, but you're gonna have people that just do it anyway, we can't stop that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were gonna put that and also that something required, we had already talked about
So-
that.
So this is what I was looking at, because we do not, anywhere in our zoning ordinance nor in our guidelines do we define replacement. So I've looked up a zoning definition of replacement. Replacement and reconstruction, they couple these together. Replacements often rise to the level of alterations or reconstruction when they alter the structure's size, shape, or non-conforming status. So here's a proposed definition. Substantial work that exceeds the threshold of a repair, such as altering load-bearing timbers, moving partitions, or replacing a full building facade. They then deal out and define non-conforming structures. Because again, we have that in a whole different section of the zoning ordinance that I have to look at as well. Replacing a non-conforming structure, for example, a shed or porch, is considered a repair if it stays in the same footprint and height. If it expands, it is reconstruction. And then intensity, replacements that increase the size, height, or intensity of a non-conforming use are generally not allowed or require special permits or conditional use permits. Under our ordinance, we generally have almost very little flexibility of increasing non-conformance. Because the whole idea of non-conformance is eventually that non-conformity goes away, or it can stay in existence but can't change at all. It can't get any bigger, can't get any larger, can't do anything.
What about different materials?
Materials are, again, are a function of the historic board, of your purview and what you review. From my purview of zoning, I don't care.
All right, so you're right, you said zoning, okay, all right.
Yes. So,
Where are you reading from?
I just quickly Googled a zoning definition for repairs versus replacement.
Okay.
Because replacement seems to be the term.
It's not
that we
written
don't have
down
defined
in ordinance space right now.
No, it's
No.
nowhere in the ordinance space.
So Katie, based on that definition, why doesn't the document why doesn't Appendix G address the sort of, satisfy that replacement? Because it says there can be no change in the design or general appearance. So that would seem to me to not be like a new non-conforming structure or a larger structure or a different structure. You can replace, but it still has to be the same design or general appearance. And maybe you want to add the word size to that or something?
I think that would help in this
Yeah.
case, is to include that word, because you can't increase the square footage, the footprint, you can't do any of those things.
So just add
Yes.
size, so it says, so there's no change in size, design, or general appearance.
Well, it does say, it says dimensions.
Not all of them,
Not all of them.
Yeah.
not all of them. Not the
So we
one
just
I'm
need to
reading.
add the same language in every category, size, dimensions, design, or general appearance. Yeah.
And I think a statement at the beginning that, basically a certificate of appropriateness doesn't cover building, right? So
That's correct.
you should always contact the building office to see whether or not you want a building permit.
And we've always had that on our applications, on our flyers, on our website.
Okay.
So you can put it on your deck, the historic district reviewer doesn't care, because we can't see it from the street, but Jeff cares.
I'll buy it. Well, now that you guys have moved, it's better, but I used to be at a distinct disadvantage, because you could look through your window to my backyard, and
Okay.
you fall.
So I think that tweak we're gonna make, starting at the beginning of this guidelines document, we would make all the way through to be consistent. Wherever we have repairs, replacement, we say the same language all the way through. Okay? Okay, so with that said, on each one of these from here on out, if it does talk about routine maintenance, we'll turn to Jed as well to see where he falls in considering it. So we come back now to fuel tanks, additions, removals. Again, this was an addition from the Civic League, and they've added across non-historic but requires zoning administrator approval and building code review.
Yeah, so we just said, as you're going alphabetically, that's an item. We wanted to call out again for ease of people using this table to say, oh, not historic, oh, but here's a caution that you need to check with zoning and code official. So we have this on a couple other locations further on down in the table. We just felt that that was an appropriate addition to help the public when they pick up this alphabetical list.
Okay? Gutters and downspouts. Again, that would be routine maintenance, no change in design, materials, appearance, etc. Jeb, your world?
No permit.
No permit. Jeb, no. For change of material, installation, addition, removal would be minor work. Moving on to handrails, stair rails, porch rails. Again, would be routine maintenance, if no change in design, materials, appearance, etc. For repairs, replacement.
No permit.
Jeb, no. 19 handrails, okay. Next one down was repairs, replacement, if there was a change in materials, that was listed as minor work. Again, I was gonna raise my concern with this, because we do feel that rails, stairs, porch rails are sometimes a significant feature of your structures. But if I have the ability to, which I do under the way this is drafted, if I'm concerned about the change of materials, I can kick that to the major work for you guys to look at. So I'm fine with leaving it as is. Okay? New construction would be major work. Moving on to lighting fixtures, exterior, number 20. Same thing, repair, no change in design, materials, etc. would be routine maintenance.
No permit.
You need a permit for light fixtures?
Replacing light
Replacement.
fixtures, you do not.
Jeb, no. For alterations, installation, or removal, it would be considered minor work.
What about, because I know we're supposed to be this like dark sky town. Issues with some of the older homes have spotlights. Is that a zoning issue or?
It's a zoning issue, and again, that would be considered what? Legal non-conforming under the zoning ordinance, or as many people, grandfathers. Only if they start to change it out, do they have to comply with the new ordinance requirements that deal with dark skies. Yes. Then we come down to masonry, repainting, painting of unpainted masonry not allowed. So again, if we're dealing with unpainted masonry, it's a no.
Yeah, so this needs to be worded, because it says
Yeah.
painting or repainting of non-masonry structure does not require approval. You can't paint a non-masonry, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's just repainted, a house.
And you can't change the color either, right?
No, not for masonry.
Because I don't,
If your masonry's already painted, you can't change the color of it, you have to paint it the same color as it was. Right?
right, yeah. Color and composition has to match the original.
Color composition, those are fancy words, we use those.
Oh, for masonry,
Of
yeah.
masonry. Okay. So again, the whole idea, and we'll make sure this is clear all the way through. So painting of masonry is not allowed. However, if the masonry is already painted, it's already a tinted masonry material, then it can be replaced, but it has to be in the same color and composition of that masonry. Again, this is only dealing with masonry. Repointing is considered routine maintenance. Jeb?
No permit.
Jeb, no.
And no permit for the first one
For
either.
the painting, yeah, I knew that was a no there, sorry. Alterations of utility,
Yeah, we just felt this was another category. I want to add a hose, and I'm coming through masonry, I'm drilling a hole.
okay. So yes, if there's utility penetrations, hose bibs, vents, alterations of that nature into the masonry, that would be routine maintenance. Jeb?
Case by case.
Yeah, gray area there, depending on.
You know, if it's a
Yeah, but-
table,
Jeb,
that's nothing, but if it's a stove hood,
yeah.
Case by case, got it. Okay. Again, with masonry repairs and replacements, when the color and composition of the mortar match the original, the new brick or stone matches the original, again, routine maintenance. Alteration, construction, removal would be major work for masonry. Is that a yes for you, Jeb?
Yes. Even the repairs, I would say replacement is case by case, and then the alteration, construction, removal would be a definite yes. But that one's not routine maintenance, so that's why I didn't answer that.
I'm in number 22,
No,
outdoor.
no, I'm sorry, just waiting to finish. Alteration, construction, removal. I'm not sure HDRB cares about the removal. Do we?
Of masonry?
Yeah, if somebody has a brick house, and they wanna take, they're just brick sided, not really brick, they wanna take out the brick front. So removing that would require a whole bunch of, because it would change the look of the house.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, normally, it quickly becomes removal instead of repair for the minor work for masonry. That is one of our most calls where people just do it, so I don't know, but I guess if we've got it listed, I do believe we have chimneys too, but if, you know, people will look at masonry for that, you know, I know we have it mapped out.
And I don't think this is new information to anybody in this room. There are probably 3 key areas that you think this is just a little bit of work, I'm gonna start this, and then it tends to spiral into a bigger project. Chimney work, yes, is one of those. Yes, brick work is the second one, and your window sills. And replacement of
I
windows.
forgot all about that one.
We're not even down there yet. So those are the 3 that you think, oh, I gotta fix this one little thing, and then it spirals into, you know, half the wall's gone. What happened?
And they're already doing the work, so it's like, I'm not going.
There was termite damage, and then we found this, then we found this, and you just keep going and going. So again, I think Paula has noted this is part of the education piece of this. This is what gets adopted. We're gonna have to educate people that these may be some of the types of work that could spiral. So checking with us might benefit you, behoove you to come talk to us as you're going into these projects. That's it. So. Okay. We're at 22, outdoor features. New item, dealing with outdoor kitchens, outdoor fire pits, built-in barbecues, saunas, hot tubs, etc. Again, from the Civic League, they're saying needs additional definition, and they're saying it's exempt from the HDRB.
And that's our question, really. It's saying, hey, here are items that need to be defined. We just lumped it together with outdoor features and saying, to what degree do you need to get involved with some of
And
this?
are they visible from the street or not?
We just put a category in there for discussion.
I mean, an outdoor kitchen or a built-in barbecue, visible from the street.
There's some that aren't.
Yeah.
I remember one time they came forward with a tiki hut
Yeah.
bar. Some of you may remember the tiki hut from, that was my first year here. The tiki hut bar in their backyard.
Oh, I remember that.
Because you can see
I
it.
don't remember where it was exactly.
It's on next lane, right?
I don't remember where the application was, Bill. I don't know if it's Peach Street or not.
I mean, we had a.
And then we have the corner house that's not our day,
I had to get it from permanent. I had
Yeah.
to get historic review.
Yeah,
And the hot tub that's.
Yes.
And is it our plunge pool? I'm not sure if it was a hot tub. or-
Well, there's a whole new category coming out. I know this because I'm getting one. The therapy swim spa, bigger than a hot tub, smaller than a pool, above ground, movable.
I just wanted to look. see
Well,
if it
where does
was-
that
I don't know if
Good
that-
question.
And they're getting very popular, especially in neighborhoods like this where we have such small yards. We can't put a pool in.
Yeah, so I look at this as, okay, can it be seen or not? Maybe it has to be split out. But then I'd say, what do your guidelines say if you have that kind of example come to the table? What are you gonna use as criteria right now? You're gonna sit around and go, oh, you know, what do you think? No, I don't know, what do you think?
Okay, in our zoning ordinance, swimming pool regulations. For the purpose of this ordinance, a swimming pool is defined as an artificial or man-made container of water capable of being filled to a depth exceeding 16 inches at the lowest point and is designed to be used for swimming or immersion purposes by individuals. Wading pools are exempt from the provisions of the zoning ordinance and are considered temporary pools if made of plastic, light metal, or other light-duty materials which should not exceed a full volume depth of 16 inches at the lowest point and which are completely emptied of water when not in use. Spas or health pools shall meet the same requirements as swimming pools except when less than 10 feet in width. So I think we have a zoning definition
You
as
do.
it relates to bodies of water that are not the Chesapeake Bay or the Atlantic Ocean.
10 feet in width, how about length? Doesn't say.
Okay, and swimming pools, you got separately as item 42, if you wanna wait until you get there to determine.
Okay, because a
These-
swim spot is 8 by 16.
These are outdoor features that we just threw out there saying, what does the historic board need to see, if any?
And we don't,
Oh, yeah.
Have it.
Exempt.
unless it's visible from the street, we really don't even deal with it.
We said it would be
Well, the
exempt.
table then needs to be clarified in that regard.
well, so, but it says that in the beginning, that we don't care about stuff that's not in public view, right? Is done.
Yeah, okay, somebody is gonna not read the language of the ordinance, they're gonna read the table and go, oh, I'm putting a barbecue in, what do I do?
If you can see it from the street, it's gotta go.
Well,
to
it's the
HDRB.
table doesn't say that right now.
But the ordinance does. It
But
says-
we could add it to this table, we could go ahead and add it to make.
The whole purpose of this
redundancy.
table is for public use, okay?
Yeah.
You are familiar with the text in the ordinance, I am, but again, the public isn't, and they're gonna use the table and try to
But
determine.
is this a standalone document that
No,
they won't
it's
look at
going
anything
in
else?
It's not a
No.
standalone document, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so it goes with the zoning.
No,
Yeah,
well,
And
it
that's
goes
fine.
to
You're
the
gonna-
Guidelines.
to the guidelines book.
yeah.
But part of this, I think this is probably gonna be a major PR
That is
campaign
correct.
as a
That is
standalone
correct.
document being distributed to the ownership within the district of saying, these were just adopted, and we wanna make you familiar with this. And maybe we're gonna break it down to categories of saying, here's all the routine maintenance, here's the whole list for you, blah, blah, blah. There could be a lot of ways that I could see us being able to market and put this out into governing doctrines or publications to improve compliance throughout the district of the work that they're doing, and we get them okay with our office.
Well, then there's a lot of sections that need to be clarified whether you can see it from the street or not.
So
Because
let's,
they'll have different,
let's go through the features one by one, because I don't know if we're talking about the outdoor kitchens, the fire pits, the tubs, pools, saunas, what we're dealing with. So maybe we take them one by one. Would that be helpful?
I don't, so the Historic District Review Board doesn't care about any of them if it can't be seen from the street.
Okay, so let's start there.
So
Not,
we'll have, that's
no
how we'll
public
break that
street,
in code.
no
Yeah.
public view,
So,
from public right away.
and if they can be seen, what do we base
they
our,
have, because if you can see them,
criteria.
it actually says in the guidelines that
Okay.
they need to do
So,
that.
so I think we can use the, for like saunas,
No,
hot
that's
tubs,
in
the
the
same.
Hang on, I can't hear all the conversations happening over here.
So for saunas, hot tubs, outdoor showers, so we.
Showers we got somewhere else, so
Yeah.
put those
So
aside.
I understand what I'm saying, but I think the same rule applies,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
You need a privacy screening to shape that for public view, a difference between private space and public space.
so all of these would require,
I said pools, saunas,
Separate
Hot
items
tubs.
there, okay?
Outdoor
Your
showers.
Outdoor shower is a separate item,
Yeah.
swimming
so-
pool's a separate
But
item.
what I'm saying is that, so saunas, hot tubs, and outdoor showers could fall in that same category and use that same sort of, thought process with a vegetative screening, right? So,
So in my zoning world, saunas, hot tubs, pools fall in the same bucket.
yeah, so from a historic district review board perspective, it could fall in the same bucket that we put outdoor showers, right?
Yep. Okay.
Does that make sense?
So I get what you're saying, so again, if it's not visible, from a public right of way, you guys don't look at it.
Right,
From my point of view, there's some screening required
right.
relative to that.
Because so things are supposed to be in a historic district, that you want unobtrusive, you want to separate the modern from the historic, you want a privacy separation, and you want to maintain the historic feel, right? So, some sort of screening for those activities that they can be seen from the street, like, the outdoor shower, I think that's appropriate.
So what about a fuel tank? Propane tank,
I
On the
would
side of
hope
the
that
house.
would be screened
and you
also.
can see it.
Yeah, so.
Not all can handle hardscape screening, meaning
Right.
fencing, because they may be right on that property line or adjacent.
Well, we don't require hard,
They can be screened in, they're
That's
screened.
they can with landscaping.
Right.
There's some of them that can be
Well,
handled
I'll
in
tell you
historic
what,
district.
Bay Creek, they're screened in with,
You have different allowances of
I-
lot size,
Well-
sorry.
But that's not in the historic district.
I know
I
that.
don't care what happens in Bay Creek, I'll be honest with you. So, yeah.
but I agree that I think
The
that tanks,
landscape.
if they're visible from the street,
Well-
should have some sort of screening.
Well, it says, when it's not feasible to
Because they're
hold
open.
and see the connections. Yeah, we do have something about.
But it could be landscaping.
screening.
It could be landscaping, through bushes we're doing it, maybe not through a fence. Because again, they may not have the ability to put a fence because I'm already right at the property line.
Right.
Yes.
Which we would probably.
And you also have limitations on the height of the fence when you're on public street, when you're on public access.
Do we have any above ground tanks in any of the homes in the historic district?
Tons.
Really?
Yeah, all of them.
No.
Okay.
90% of them.
I was gonna say, so you can't use the underground ones anymore, can you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, that's Bay Creek, that's all they're installing.
Okay.
So I'm gonna come back to, again, outdoor kitchens, outdoor fire pits, and built-in barbecues. I've separated out all my water components, so let me now deal with, cooking fire elements.
Yeah, I don't think those would require screening. I mean,
Just to hear from everybody.
Yeah.
So to some extent, if they're there, it's routine maintenance. If they're going to be putting it in for the first time, so if they have it existing and they're doing routine, they can do that. If it's new, is it still routine? It's new, it's minor, not
I mean,
under your purview at all.
that would be in a similar category as, say, a pergola. And they don't require screening, but they do have to get approval.
So, because we've had this a couple times over in Bay Creek, Jeb, they're getting added in, some of these outdoor kitchen
Yeah, that's
stuff. Does that require a full building permit from you? I can't remember.
No, I mean, the installation of the appliances, if they're fuel fired or something, would require permits for the gas piping and all that. If they're just at grade patios, with grill features, no, that would not require a permit from
Are
us.
they putting in a full outdoor sink?
I mean, obviously, the plumbing work requires permits and all that, yeah, but not the actual installation of the, you know,
Okay.
if you think
But
stone
would any of
or,
this
you know.
require historic board approval?
As long as it's not visible from a public right of
If
way.
it is visible.
If it is visible, then yes, I would say it requires your review,
Okay.
yes. Okay. On 23.
Well, you need to go back to we passed fuel tanks. You need to go back and either,
I don't, because fuel tanks are a heating source for the homes. And I would say, I'm sorry, it's visible, you can't have it.
no, you just talk about vegetative
Right,
requirements.
some sort of
you know,
screening.
Just,
We can add
Most
the,
of them are there, yeah, but I
we can
guess
add the
that's new.
screening, just add the screening requirement. Yes.
okay, that's all I'm saying.
Because I-
Just-
I think it's just as important as an outdoor shower to have screening for a fuel tank. But again, it doesn't require hard, it could just be landscaping.
Okay. Got it?
But the comment in here says not historic, but requires zoning administrator approval.
That's why we're discussing.
Are we saying
That's
it does require historic board approval?
Of anything not from the public view, no historic required.
It doesn't say not. It doesn't make that distinction. It just says fuel tank,
We,
Oh,
17.
that's correct. I don't bring individual fuel tank requests to you, no.
Okay, then how, the whole screening issue, who would make that? You would make
Again,
that?
it's coming through me. So when I'm looking at a site plan for its new house, I'm looking at that as an
Just
element.
an administrative
Yeah.
certificate.
So if you're looking at new construction and it's coming under your purview, yes. But if somebody's looking to change the fuel tank, it was in the back and they're moving it to the side, or something has happened, they're changing it out, any number of things. I do look at that from a zoning, because it's a change of zoning clearance, and I'm looking at their site plan to where they're trying to put this, ensure they're in compliance with putting it on their own property and not on their neighbors. They're really close in the historic district. Yes, I do look at that from a zoning perspective.
Would it be listed as minor work?
No, it doesn't require a certificate of appropriateness. I handle it through a zoning clearance document, I do. Yes.
Then who cares if they screen it?
I care. We'll tell them in this, because again, this is meant to be customer friendly. Keep that in mind, this is not just for you guys, it's for the customers too, okay? So I'm coming back to, I think we finished, we're moving on to patios.
Did we do 23?
Painting, we dealt with painting in numerous spots.
Just alphabetically, we said painting
Sorry.
again, we said this
Oh, I see, it's the same
like
line.
the
Yes,
eighth
I'm
time,
sorry.
but
I'm sorry. Yep.
Patios, Again, repair replacement, when there's no change, is routine maintenance. Jed, what say you?
Not required, if we're talking about the same definition, less than 16 inches above grade, not required per permit.
I'll put that into the patio, less than 16 inches above grade.
I believe, let me double check that tomorrow, but I believe that's what our definition of a patio is. It's less than 16 inches.
Okay.
And it's supported on ground, I believe is the definition.
Again, if it changed material, that would be minor work. Same with alterations, additions, removal of existing would be minor.
What's an addition there compared to new construction?
That's a
Adding
great
to-
question.
Oh, I guess if they're adding to a patio, expand the
Yeah,
patio.
new construction, you're just doing brand new,
Yeah,
you're never
the
doing
new
anything.
construction is brand new.
Yeah.
Make a patio.
Yeah, we have patios all the time.
So you're talking expansion as to.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Okay, working our way down, porches.
Case by case?
For you, for A,
Yes.
Jed, case by case. Again, when there is a change of material, that would be minor work. New construction, addition, expansion, removal of existing would be major work. Again, keep in mind porches are at the front of the house, not dealing with anything in the rear, those are called decks. Or patios are again are at grade, keep that in mind.
So do you
Porches
want to
are
add that clarification next to porches?
We can, we will reference exactly where it is in the guidelines, so people know that that is a difference, because I know everybody will come in and talk about their front deck. I don't have front deck,
So-
I have porches.
A deck can be covered as well on the rear?
Yes, it can.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have to ask, what if it's on the side of the house?
It depends on if it came off the front porch, then it's a continuation of the front porch.
Stand on,
So,
I'm not trying to be hard, porch back, or porch front, deck back, what's on
I
the
think
side?
we're calling it a deck on the side, if it's not connected to the front.
It's deck, okay.
Yeah.
So it's back and side, okay.
Yes, and again, that's the reference in our guidelines, I hope I need to get the right citation here, but yes. Okay? Primary buildings. I know from the Civic League, they asked what is the definition of a primary building? There actually is a definition in our zoning ordinance that it's actually under primary,
It's under building common main.
building comma main.
So we said that,
Say
we
that
would
again,
just change
building?
that.
Building comma main.
Then change the wording there
That's what I
to
have
say that.
down.
Yep. And does anybody want to hear or see where, or read that definition? Yes, no? And a no?
No.
So again, no change in design, materials, or appearance. Again, calling a replacement of a whole house as routine maintenance. I have to be honest, that's giving me like a little heartburn, if not something more. Repair, replacement, the replacement I think is what is kicking me. Repairs, I have no problem with that, but the replacement of
I
a
don't think
whole
they
house.
should be together.
Yeah, I
I
would
think
delete the
replacement
replacement.
needs to be at least minor.
So what was the intention of this section, Paul? Because, I mean, I feel like we're hitting all the points of the exterior of a building throughout this.
Correct.
What is this supposed to encompass? If we're hitting all the other points, we're hitting porches, we're hitting decorative features, we're hitting windows, we're hitting doors, what is this to encompass that doesn't encompass? Other than the whole building?
That's a good point. We just
I
looked at
struggled with this one
the
when I first saw
the
it.
main building itself, you know, and just repair of some aspect that isn't on the list that I can go after if it falls under these particular categories.
I think it's wormy.
Yeah, I mean, I get you need kind of a catch-all
Well, what you
for things
okay,
that aren't.
the main building was there. We added A and B just for clarifications that some aspect of it can be repaired. Yeah, and replacement, again, I understand that
But
the
the
term is getting carried away, but
Yeah.
that wasn't our intent, replacing boards for boards, you know, that's.
But like Jeff said, I mean, repair what? Repair a window, repair that, those are all been addressed individually.
Mhm.
So when you say repair, what's left that hasn't already been addressed?
Siding, framing.
No, siding is on here, roof is on here.
Framing would actually be, Jeff, because that would be underneath everything. So they would have already hit zoning and they would send them to.
Would that be architectural?
Yeah.
Yes.
Get unique kind
But
of-
then that's under architectural features, that section.
That makes sense.
So I have to be honest, Paul, it is, A and B being added to this is giving me heartburn.
Well, again, it was because you had main building or primary building already listed with C, D, E, and F. And we added repairs because we're adding repairs to all the other categories.
Oh, I tell you why we had, building main, because it covered like new construction,
Right.
commercial, residential. And because we didn't say anything about,
Because we had to put it in here somewhere because
Yeah.
we're dealing with the infill lots now. There are lots
So
that have been built upon.
if you're saying A and B can drop because we've captured all the various aspects elsewhere, I can see that,
Yeah.
all right?
And
If
we'll
this
change it
dealing
to
with
building
new
main.
altogether,
Right,
Yep,
because we've addressed any other place of repair in a different section.
so everybody's okay, we're gonna delete A and B out of item 26.
So you really don't know the definition of primary buildings?
Well, we're gonna
no,
rename it so
we
it's called
went
main.
back and looked at some of these terms and said, this is the first time you're using it, where can I find it?
So
So if you change it back to main building and have that definition,
so we're gonna.
primary building is the main structure on a lot, right? It's the largest and most prominent structure.
what are you reviewing? What are you looking at in the ordinance to say that?
So it's in the historic district review guidelines.
Okay, it's not in the ordinance as a definition.
So it needs to go to the ordinance, but a primary building is the main structure on a lot, it's the largest and most prominent structure.
So in our zoning
That's the
ordinance,
definition.
we define it as building comma main, means the
Right.
principal structure, the principal building on a lot, or the building, or the principal building housing the principal use on a lot. Because I worry about not just the structure, I worry about use of a structure as well. That's what I review zoning for.
I think primary is more appropriate than main. I think.
But I'm not taking away out of my zoning ordinance of building main, because I need it there in the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Okay, so, yeah, because we're doing two different things, I guess.
Where do you find the definition of the guidelines?
I don't remember, I went back through and looked at it, and it said basically, so for the historic district, primary building.
So for this one, we will verify if it's defined in the guidelines somewhere.
Well, chapter 5 is primary building treatment.
Right, and it said in there, primary building is the main structure.
So within the chapter, not within the definition section of the guidelines, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So chapter 5. So I'm probably
I
in
guess
some
I should
way.
have eaten dinner before I came.
Well,
I knew this.
I'm gonna actually stop us at the end of this page, because typically for work sessions for the planning commission, we try and keep us to a 2-hour limit, because your brain gets really fried. Does everybody concur with that right now?
Yes.
I move we adjourn.
Before you do that,
Unless you supply line while we're working.
Because I'm angry.
Then we have to-
26.
my hard copy is in the next page. So we will stop here and take it back up to 27. So this means we're gonna do another, we do have this is where I need to talk to you guys before you all go away. You actually do have more applications for the March meeting. I think we got 3 or 4 that you're gonna have to take up. So I would actually suggest,
If it's on the agenda, I'll get it.
can we bring you to attend a planning commission meeting when they normally meet as a work session to continue this review of this document?
What day is it?
Yeah.
Well, so now you need to talk to the planning commission.
First Tuesday.
She needed.
Are there work
First and another
We meet
Monday.
the first Tuesday of March 3rd.
Okay.
So if the planning commission is okay, can we put that on your March 3rd calendar, agenda packet, to take this up? And from you guys, from the historic board, are you okay to join us? They start at 6, not 5.
That's fine.
Is everybody okay with that?
What day again, I'm
It's
sorry?
a Tuesday, March 3rd.
March 3rd, okay.
Could it be first on the agenda?
Right now, I think it's pretty much the only item on the agenda for them. They have another zoning text amendment they're gonna hopefully kick off as well, which is a final review of the Chesapeake Bay ordinance changes too. I know. Okay, so that's it. We're gonna post a meeting for everybody again, March 3rd, 6 PM to finish this review. We will try and get you an edited or cleaned up version of our changes to date as well. We'll put it in a different color so everybody can see the changes we're proposing.
And we're ending at,
Number 27 is where we're gonna pick up again,
okay.
okay? Thank you all. Thank you, Jeb. Thank you, Paul, for coming. And thank you,